Good morning, everyone. It is 10 a.m. Central Time, which means it's 11 a.m. Eastern. It is PLAR History and Geography right now here at WASA in Silica. My name is Jonathan. Again, I am your teacher for this course. Thank you so much for joining and participating. We are at the end of week 3 of our 9-week term for term 2A. So we're moving along nicely. We're almost done the history half of this course. So we'll probably finish this course around week 5 or so, give or take, and then we'll switch gears and move towards geography. Okay, so again, first half history, later on we'll look at geography. Okay, are there any questions? Are there any questions before we get started today? It is currently snowing right now here in Sulaco. Well, it's trying to snow at least. Alright, like always, feel free to call in and listen and participate throughout my lesson. Again, you can call in and later in at any points. Again, feel free to give me a shout or call during my office hours if you're stuck with anything or have any questions or have any concerns in regards to this course and your assignments. Feel free to do that. Again, continue to submit those assignments. Either scan it, fax it to me, email it to me, Facebook to me, whatever. Okay, many options. Okay. Again, feel free to send me an email if you have any questions, whether you're a student or a DC. Social media. I do have Facebook, as you know, so feel free to add me as a friend at jhowasa. Again, you can simply delete me as a friend once this course is done. I do not have Twitter. I do not have Instagram. Maybe next term, maybe I'll get those set up. Again, YouTube. I always post my lessons on my YouTube channel. So if you missed anything or want to go back and watch it 10 times, you can do that on my YouTube channel. Just search jhowasa or go to my Facebook page on my timeline. I always post a link there. You can also go to WASA archive page, like always. All the lessons for all the courses, not just my course, but every teacher here at WASA course lessons are recorded. It's on our archive page. You can click on it, you can download it. Again, you can listen to all those lessons 10 times, 100 times if you like. Okay? Any questions? Any concerns? Hopefully we'll have someone join us later today and listening. Other than that, that's all there's the announcements I have. So we're gonna get started in terms of today's lesson. And boom. I don't know why this thing is on my screen all the time, so let's move it over here, and hopefully she will go away. Close. Hopefully that's gone now. Yes, so as you recall on Tuesday, we wrapped things up and we finished lesson number 1. Yes, lesson number 1 is now done. Not a huge lesson, but it's now done. So now we are moving on to lesson number 2. Lesson number 2. As you recall, in this course, my course, PLAR History and Geography, we have a total of five lessons. Okay, 5 lessons, 16 assignments if you're doing both sections. If you're just doing the history, you're pretty much halfway done it, as there's only 3 lessons in terms of the history half. So we wrapped things up last class by looking at Canada during the 1920s, the 1930s. If you forgot all those materials, boom, go back to my YouTube channel, watch that lesson, or go to the archive page. Okay? But we're gonna move on. We're gonna continue looking at Canadian history in terms of Canada. Okay, we're gonna look at Canada right now in terms of World War II. This is the start of lesson number 2, where this time period is between 1939 to 1945, the World War II period. Okay, so we're moving on to the 1940s, you can say. Okay, the 1940s. So we're going to spend this class and perhaps next class looking at Canada and its involvement during the Second World War. With that being said, you're learning expectation by the end of this lesson and next lesson is that you will have an understanding of Canada's role and its involvement during the Second World War. Okay, some materials may be similar to what Canada did during the First World War, but some materials may be slightly different. And you'll see that as we continue on with today's lesson. Okay, so let's get to our learning goals. See if this marker works here today. Oh, this thing popped up again. Let's hide it. It canceled. Oh, okay. Our learning goals for today's class will be how did it started? And what I mean by that is that we'll be looking at what Europe was like at the start of World War II. Oh, my marker is dying. Oh, she's dying. Let's use this marker. Oh, she doesn't want to work either. That's okay. And my whole screen just disappeared. Sorry for all that. We'll figure out how all this will start. I guess I'll use my finger. So again, we'll be looking at how it started. Again, we'll be looking at what Europe was like at the start of World War II. We'll be looking at going to war. Again. And what I mean by that, we'll be looking at Canada going to war again. We'll be looking at government, like always, huge part of Canadian society and how we function. But more particularly, we're looking at Mackenzie King. We'll be looking at how to fight and what that all means. And lastly, we'll be talking about I don't want to fight. Hopefully you can see all that. Again, our learning goals for today is that we'll be looking at how it all started. I'll be giving the class some background content of what kickstarted the Second World War. This is not in the textbook, but I'll just give that to you. We'll be looking at going to war, ... Again, yes, Canada's going to war again for the second time, and why we decided to go to war again for the second time. Again, Canadian government, Mackenzie King, the guy that's on our Canadian $50 bill, and what he decided to do for Canada during this time period. We'll be looking at how to fight in terms of Camp X, what we did here in Canada. And lastly, we'll be closing out this lesson by looking at a group of individuals who simply do not want to fight and why they do not want to fight. Okay? So again, reminder, our goal for today is looking at World War II, looking at Canada, and looking at the rest of the world as well, and how that all play a factor. So what led to the Second World War? Okay, we know what started the First World War and all those factors. Okay, some of those factors still apply to this one, but there's some slight changes. Okay, again, this is just some background content to help further and deepen your understanding of what led to the Second World War. Some of us may know, some of us may don't. The textbook doesn't explain it, but that's why we're here in class, so that I can provide you with these details. So what led to the Second World War? So if you go back, think back, probably around week 1 where we talk about the end, around week 2 where we talk about the end of the First World War. As you recall, as you remember, at the end of the First World War, there was an agreement or a treaty that was signed, and that was called the Treaty of Versailles. Okay, the Treaty of Versailles, signed by Britain, France, Canada, other European countries. It was a treaty, not a law, but a treaty basically means it's an agreement between countries or nations or a group of people. And in that treaty, the Treaty of Versailles, there's a clause, as you recall, the guilt clause, that blamed Germany. Yes, we're pointing fingers at Germany for causing the war. Okay, we're blaming Germany for all of its hostility, blaming it for all its problems and how it's Germany basically started the First World War. Okay, Germany during this time period also faced a depression. Okay, as you remember from last class, in the 1930s, the New York stock market crashed. Boom, impacted Canada. Boom, people lost their jobs. And like I said, it not just impacted Canada, but it also impacted countries around the world as well. For example, Germany was affected. So they are in this depression phase. Okay, unemployment. Okay, influence of the stock crash. So whatever was happening in Canada, where people lost jobs, people laid off, couldn't afford things, didn't have income. Germany had the same problems, but more as they were defeated in World War One. So they were also in rough times. However, a man came along, and this man name was Adolf Hitler, as most people may recognize that name. Hitler. Hitler was a dictator in terms of his rule in government or rule in power. Hitler was a unique individual. He was the voice of reason. As like I said, Germany was in a rough time. They were all sad, depression, no jobs. But Hitler was the voice of reason. He gave Germans hope. He told the people of Germany that Germany can once again can be big and powerful once again. This was his goal. This was his promise. He said that Germany can be big and powerful and strong like it was back in the day again. Germany, Hitler ruled by the Nazi Party, where he was the leader, also a dictator. His government was known as fascism. Fascism type of government. Here in Canada, we pretty much have something called democracy, where everyone vote is equally, um, and all that. Freedom of expression, opinion, and all that. But during this time period, Germany was ruled by a government classified as fascism in terms of its ideology. Fascism is basically a system of rules where its government celebrates the nation or race and is loyal to its community. Fascism is also against individualism. So if you're one individual who are smart, they don't like that. They saw that as a threat to society. Fascism is also a government system rules that rule by racial superiority and also ruled by usually by one leader, not a group of people, but one leader, often a mass movement of the people. So that was what Germany was like during this time period when Hitler was voted into power in 1933. People bought into his lies, I would say. Hence why he was voted into power in 1933. He promoted that the Jews cheated the country with false advertisement. Not true. This is what he advertised. And he blamed or he called that Germany or Germans were the best ethnicity and nothing else. You had to be German. If you're not German, you're not considered ideal. Okay, this is what Hitler's goal was. This was what his mindset was. This is what he wanted to do when he was in power. You had to be German. Germany is the best. Everyone needs to be German, needs to be like German. If you're not, then we got a big problem. Okay, this was his goal. That's why he promoted that Jews cheated the country during all this rough times, especially during World War One and during the Depression. So this is what Germany was like before the start of World War II. Let's continue looking at how it all started. In 1936, Germany and Hitler teamed up with Italy, and they began an alliance. Okay, we saw that word again, alliance, which means that these two countries, these two nations, they teamed up one another. Basically, hey, let's team up, let's have a little group. I'll support you, or you support me, I'll have your back if you have my back. We know that Germany was ruled by Hitler during this time period. Italy was ruled by Benito Mussolini. You don't need to remember his name, but it's good to know his name. He was ruled by Italy. Also a dictator during this time period. Benito Mussolini. So Hitler and Mussolini teamed up together in 1936. In 1938, Germany entered and invaded Austria and Czechoslovakia. A year later, in 1939, Italy, ruled by Mussolini, took Albania. Okay, these are all countries in Europe during this time period. So Germany's invading, Italy is invading, they started taking countries and land and acquiring wealth again so that they can build an empire, which set up like an alarm bell. The rest of Europe was like, whoa, what just happened? What's going on right now? Okay. What is Germany doing? What is Italy doing? Why are they invading? Why are they taking countries or acquiring land? The rest of Europe, such as France and Britain, saw this as a threat. Okay, as you recall, the Treaty of Versailles had an agreement where countries cannot, cannot invade or take over countries if they want to, or if they wish, or if they desire. They can't do that. They can't do that. Okay, and they pretty much told Germany to stop. However, Germany was like, hey, no, we're not gonna listen. We're gonna invade Poland as well. Okay, as you see, this is more problems. So finally, later on in 1939, France and Britain finally declare war on Germany. And this is pretty much how, in a little nutshell, how World War II all started. Are there any questions about that? Any questions? So let's go back home. Let's look at Canada. We know how the Second World War started with Germany and Italy, Hitler taking land, acquiring land, building an empire, making lies, making a false advertisement, all that, creating problems. So here in Canada, Canada declared war on Germany. Yes, we did. Yeah, we declared war on Germany 7 days later after Britain did. So Britain and France declared war on Germany first. Then 7 days later, Canada declared war on Germany ourselves. Canada declared war on Germany themselves. Canada was not forced to go to war like World War One. Canada decided on its own. This was a key difference. Put a little star beside it. This is a key difference between World War One and World War Two. As you remember, back in World War One in 1914, Britain went to war, and pretty much whatever Britain did, Canada did as well. We were a colony of the British Empire, colony of Britain. So whatever Britain did, we had to do as well. We had no choice, pretty much, and we just did it as well. However, right now, in 1939, and the start of 1940s, Canada has greatly changed as a country. We've grown independently and proved that we can be a nation of our own. So what happened was that, all right, over here, in 1931, there was an agreement between Canada and Britain known as the Statute of Westminster. Okay, 1931, there was a Statute of Westminster. This was a agreement between Canada and Britain where it stated that Canada can now govern without interference from Britain. Okay, which means that Canada right now can make its decision on its own. We don't have to follow Britain anymore. We have proved countless times that we can be a nation and a country on our own from all past events. With the 1931 Statute of Westminster, it clarifies the power of Canada, what we can do, what we can't do. It pretty much granted legal freedom to Canada, where we can do pretty much whatever we want. However, there are still some limitation in regards to what Canada can do, what Canada cannot do with Britain's permission or without their permission. But for the most part, Canada can now govern its own nation, its own country, without interference from Britain. And that was from this, the Statute of Westminster in 1931. That is why Canada was able to declare war themselves and were not forced to go to war like World War One. Okay, key information right there. This is why it's different. So again, yes, Canada, we raised a hand, we stepped up, and boom, we're going to war again. The reason why Canadians decided to go to war was simply we're still in a phase, a period of depression. Yes, we are still hit by this period of the Great Depression where people still don't have jobs, no money, nothing to do, kicking around, doing absolutely nothing. So because of that, a lot of Canadians stepped up and decided to join the war efforts. Simply, depression left them no job. So going to war would left them with something to do. Also, again, improve nationalism, loyalty to Canada as well as the country. There's many, many factors. Okay. Any questions about that? Yes, Canada is going to war once again. But we're doing it on our own terms, by ourselves, as our own country. So let's watch. Canada and the world watch. So Canada and the rest of the world watch. So yes, 1939, World War II started. A year later, 1940, Germany was back to its good old tricks. The tricks of invading countries, trying to acquire land and wealth to build and expand its empire. Because in Hitler's mind, he wanted everyone to be German. Okay, if you're not German, then you're not seen as, I don't know, civilized or wealth or whatever that is all about. So he wanted to invade and conquer as much land as possible and turn everyone into German society. So in 1940, after seeing my slide, Germany invaded Denmark, Norway, Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Yep, Germany is up to its good old tricks, starting to invade with this army, moving their troops in and try to acquire as much land as possible. Suddenly, all of a sudden, Canada, yes, Canada, is Britain's largest ally. Okay, Britain needs Canada. They need us. We have proved that we are good supporter countless times, so Britain all of a sudden saw Canada as its largest ally. Okay, they needed Canada's support if they're going to win this war. There was fear since Germany is invading Denmark, Norway, Netherlands, Belgium, and France. There was fear that Britain will be next. Sooner or later, Hitler and Germany would invade Britain. Britain's safe at the moment because Britain is basically like an island surrounded by oceans and water, so it's pretty much difficult for Germany to invade Britain. But sooner or later, they had that fear that Britain would be next. And after Britain, boom, us here in Canada, here in North America, we will be next. So it was just a matter of time. People saw it, just a matter of time. So something needed to be done. Something needed to be done. As a result, Arsenal of Democracy. Fancy key term, which we'll see again on your assignment. Arsenal of Democracy. Basically, other word means as the home front. Okay. We talked about the home front back in World War One. The home front otherwise meaning Canadians that did not go to war overseas, men that did not qualify, women who stayed back at home, and children as well. So the Arsenal of Democracy pretty much means the home front, not a fancy key term. Canada was seen as an arsenal of democracy. Why? Because we made it huge efforts to support the war efforts. Okay, there were victory bonds. Okay, victory bonds. What were victory bonds? Victory bonds were where Canadians can purchase victory bonds, and then later on they can cash in their victory bonds at some interest rate and get funds back. Canada also produced weapons. We produce fuel, household goods, and food for the troops. Okay, all similar topics, similar to World War One and the home front. Okay, factories were beginning to open up again. We're making weapons, producing all these goods, foods, so that we can support the men and the women overseas and our troops. Women, again, we're looking at women. Their role during this time period was still limited in terms of job opportunities. It still opened up, but there was still limitation. Again, similar to World War One, since a lot of men, Canadians men, were overseas fighting, jobs started to open up. Holes started to open up. So women stepped up and took men jobs in these factories and started to take over many of these tasks. Children, kids, yes, kids, even played a huge role as well. Fundraising, care package, and other duties, okay? They did what they could to try to collect money to support Canada and the war efforts. Again, Canada was a great help to the war efforts, hence why we were known as the Arsenal of Democracy. Okay? Not just one individual did it, but it was a collective effort. Okay? Men, women, children all played a role in this. Okay? Canada's role in World War II could not be successful without all this. Okay, again, staying at home was a huge part of Canada's identity during this time period. Okay, women, men, children all played a huge part, doing what they could to support and fundraise for the war. Are there any questions so far, class? Again, feel free to show any questions, or if you want to clarify anything, just let me know. All right. So let's look at this man right here. His man was Mackenzie King. Again, you reach down in your pocket or your wallet or your purse and pull out a 50 Canadian dollar bill, that red bill. You'll see this man on it, Mackenzie King. Okay, he's on a $50 Canadian bill. So Mackenzie King was Canada's Prime Minister during this time period. He was in office for many duration, but he was in office, in power, ruling Canada during the Second World War time period. He was a successful man. He created 3 acts. Okay, 3 acts. And these are all key facts. Acts, sorry. Okay, he created 3 key measures. Okay, so one, what Mackenzie King did was that in 1940 he created something called the Unemployment Insurance Act. The Unemployment Insurance Act of 1940. Mackenzie King created this act, created this measure. Simply, it stated that any individual can collect unemployment funds or money for a period of time, proving that they had worked before becoming unemployed. Simply, if you had worked before and now you have no job or jobless, you can collect money from the government because of this act, known as the Unemployment Insurance Act. Okay, again, Canada is in a depression from the 1930s. Many, almost 1/3 of Canadians lost their jobs. So this act that Mackenzie King created, Unemployment Insurance Act 1940, was significant. It was huge. Okay, so you can collect unemployment money from the government, proving that if you had worked before becoming unemployed. So that was one key measure that King created. Number 2, what Mackenzie King also created was the Family Allowance Act in 1944. The Family Allowance Act in 1944. With this act, with this measure that was created, family with children can collect something called baby bonus to help pay for food, shelter, and clothing. So if you or a family or have children during this time period, you can also collect money again from the government, something called baby bonus. So the more children you have, the more kids you have in the household, the more baby bonuses, money from the government you got. Okay, I believe that still applies nowadays. Could be wrong. Where each family, depending on how many kids you have or how many children you have, you can collect baby bonuses up to a certain age. I believe that still applies today. I could be wrong. Okay, but with the baby bonus money, the goal of that was to help pay for food, shelter, and clothing. Again, during the Great Depression, many families had no jobs, had no money. How could you pay for food, clothing, and shelter? Boom, with this act, now you can. So these 2 acts were huge in terms of what Mackenzie King did to help Canadian citizens, family, men, women, and children so that they can support and live a healthy lifestyle here in Canada. And finally, what Mackenzie King also created was victory bonds. Victory bonds. This also took place back in World War One. Okay, victory bonds help fundraise money for the war efforts. Okay, again, going to war overseas in Europe and fighting Germany and all those other countries was not cheap. It's not cheap. It costs money. It costs money. So Mackenzie King created victory bonds, money that was borrowed from Canadian citizens at a low interest rate. So you can purchase victory bonds, money borrowed at a low interest rate. Then afterwards, you can cash it in for principal plus interest. So the more victory bonds you have that you purchased, you can cash it in later at an interest rate. That's pretty much what victory bonds were. So it's a win-win situation for paying for the war and getting money back later on after the war. Okay? So Mackenzie King, he did a lot of good things for us here in Canada. Okay, we'll see a question about Mackenzie King and what he did later on assignment number 4. Okay, yeah, you need to remember that. Unemployment Insurance Act, Family Allowance Act, and victory bonds. Victory bonds. Okay, 3 things that King did when he was in power during this time period of the Second World War. Moving on to the next slide. A different Canada. A different Canada. Why was Canada different? Well, Canada avoid return to 1930s distress. Remember, 1930s equals Great Depression. Okay. Remember, it's not just known as the Great Depression, but it was a time of struggles and challenges. Okay, rough times due to the Great Depression. So Canada is now different because of all the factors and negative consequences that played out in the 1930s due to all the challenges and struggles due to the Great Depression. Canada is now different. We have, boom, Unemployment Insurance Act. Boom, we have Family Allowance Act. Okay, so even if you were jobless, you can still collect money. Okay, proving that you had a job before. Okay, it also helped out families. Remember, Family Allowance Act, baby bonuses money. Okay, depending on how many children you have, you can collect baby bonuses based on the number of children you have in that household. Okay, so with these 2 acts, these 2 measures that was created by our government, Mackenzie King, Canada should be able to avoid all the distress that took place in the 1930s. Hence why Canada is now a different as we move forward. Canada is also different because internationally around the world, Canada can protect herself interests and contribute to war events. Okay, Canada again can govern itself now. We prove that Canada is a loyal country and contribute and can help out in war efforts. Okay, we're not just a country that sit back and let other people deal with our problems. We step up and we help out as well. This is what Canada is seen like internationally. Okay, so Canada's slightly looking different. Okay, as we move along looking at Canadian history. Camp X. Camp X. When we're looking at Camp X, pretty much how to fight. In a way. Camp X. So what was Camp X? What was Camp X? So Camp X was established between 1941 and 46. It was a secret training institution commando area. Secret commando training institution. Basically an area where you can train to fight. Okay, secret commando training institution. It trained people how to become secret agents, spies, assassins, how to fight. More than 500 people trained here at Camp X. So Camp X was pretty popular. Camp X was the first secret agent school in North America. And the only one in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, in Camp X, people can learn secret codes, how to enter buildings, climb cliffs, weapons, get on and off trains, cross landscapes at night times, fighting tactics, learn how to handle different weapons, etc. Okay, so pretty much if you watch, for example, James Bond, those fancy movies, James Bond, that's pretty much what people were learning to do. Okay, so Camp X, secret training institution, how to fight using different fancy, neat tactics. Okay, So for example, here in Canada, the RCMP, they train at Camp X. In the United States, the FBI use tactics learned from Camp X. Okay, it's not just any normal police force or regulations, but all those secret codes, spies, and all those fancy tactics that you will learn. Okay, so Camp X, it was here in Canada near Oshawa, around Oshawa in that area. That's where Camp X was established. How to fight, different tactics and strategies as well. Not just your fancy kick and punch, poked in the eye, all those fun stuff, but different unique strategies. Okay, so that was Camp X. Training spies in Canada. I have a quote here that I gather. Okay, I'm going to read a quote. And I quote, "This war is not a sport. Your aim is to kill your opponent as soon as possible. A prisoner is generally a handicap and a source of danger, particularly if you are without a weapon." End quote. That was a quote from Major Dan Farbarn, who also trained at Camp X. Okay, I'll read that quote again. I thought it was pretty unique, so I thought I would plug it in. And I quote, "This war, not a sport. It's not a sport. Your aim is to kill your opponent as soon as possible. A prisoner is generally a handicap and a source of danger, particularly if you're without a weapon." End quote. Again, that's from a Major Dan Fairbarn. Okay, this is a quote that I gather throughout my studies, throughout my time. Okay, it reflects, he also trained at Camp X, and it reflects what was being learned at Camp X. Okay, again, Camp X, secret training commando institution. Okay, fancy, learning how to fight, different tactics. Okay, going to war was not fun. Okay, not just going to war to have fun, but going to war was to protect your country and others. Okay, so at times it was doing it as soon as possible. No risk was taken. Opportunity was there. You just gotta take it. All right. I believe we're at the end of this lesson. Constituous objectors. Constituous objectors. Okay. In other words, I don't want to fight. These group of people, otherwise known as constituous objectors, they were not in agreement to go to war. Okay. They said nope, nope, and no. Okay. They refused to engage in any war conflict. Why? Pretty much based on personal belief. Hey, I don't want to go to war. Ethical reason, religious reasons, and personal moral reasons as well. Okay, these group of individuals were pretty much Mennonites, Amish, and Jehovah Witnesses. These groups of individuals were classified as constituent objectors. Pretty much saying, no, I don't want to fight. Okay, so these group of individuals were known as the constituent objectors. Okay, did not want to go to war, believed it was completely wrong, and they refused to engage in any of these activities. They believe that Christians should be viewed as neutral, okay, in war conflict. They did not pick any side. They did not support anyone. Okay, they did not support Germany or Canada or Britain. They were neutral. Okay, right down the middle. Simply, they did not want to fight. They did not want to engage. Show no support based on personal reason, ethical reason, and religious reason, moral reasons, and other factors as well. Okay, simply they just said no. Okay, they did not want to fight. Again, you'll see this question or this slide asking who they were who were the constituent objectors in your next assignment. Okay. Before we look at assignment number 4, I'm going to talk about First Nations, Indigenous, in the 1940s. Okay. We know that in 1939, World War II started, and it lasted till 1945. But here in Canada, again, our First Nations, Indigenous, Aboriginal population, what were going through their mindset and what was going on with them, with that population. So the Canadian government ignored treaty promise. Again, there was treaty promise between First Nations and the Canadian federal government, but that treaty agreement was pretty much ignored. Canadian government did not listen to it. Okay. But after World War II, okay, after World War II, so around 1945, give or take, there was a greater political consciousness within First Nations. There's an increase of Canadian awareness of Aboriginal issues. Okay, so after World War II was kind of like the turning point in terms of now we kind of see what's going on in terms of Aboriginal population, all their concerns, the problems, what was going on, and their concerns. So, and a lot of public start to realize and understand and know these issues are surrounding their point of view and the Canadian government point of view as well. That did not happen until, again, after World War II. Okay, again, you see a huge step, huge change taking place between First Nation population and the Canadian government relationship. Okay, you'll start to see some changes. Okay, a lot of it was being ignored, didn't take them into account, but after World War II, things started to change a little bit. Okay, greater political concerns. Okay, so that's some First Nation added into this lesson. So before we wrap things up, class, let's talk about lesson number 4. Sorry, assignment number 4. Okay, assignment number 4. Assignment number 4 is out of 14 marks. Again, all these questions are in your textbook. All the answers are in your textbook. All the answers are on my slide that we talked about. Okay, so there should be no surprises. Again, remember, full, complete sentences, detailed, clearly, legibly. Do not copy straight from the textbook or any other source for that matter. Okay? Question number 1, what was the main reason Canadian citizens joined the Second World War? Okay, we talked about that in today's class. Why was Canada known as Arsenal of Democracy? Okay, why was Canada known as that? Question number 3, what was Camp X? Okay, tell me what Camp X was, its purpose, its goals, what people learned there, stuff like that. Okay, pretty straightforward, pretty straightforward. Question number 4 out of 6 big marks. Basically, tell me, in order to ensure Canadians had their basic needs met, the Canadian government led by Prime Minister Mackenzie took specific steps. Name 3 measures created to provide financial to families and describe their purposes. Okay, so here for this question, name 3 measures. Not just one, but 3. All 3. Okay, a mark for each, and a mark for describing what it was. Okay, tell me the 3 and describe. Okay, details. Okay, details. What Mackenzie King created to help give people, Canadians, financial support during rough times. And last question, class. Who were the constituent objectors? Okay, last slide that we talked about. Who were they? What did they do? What were they against? Who were they? Why were they against this going to war? For what reason? Okay, details, details, details. 2 marks. Okay, and that's simply assignment number 4 right there. Okay, pretty straightforward. Okay, 4 or 5 questions. Again, details, details, and details. Okay, are there any questions? Are there any questions? I know that we don't have any communities calling in right now, but that's okay. But are there any questions still? Does Wasa Front TV does have any questions? Okay, does anyone have any questions? Again, if you do have questions, if you do get stuck on any of the materials that you're going over while working on assignment number 4 or any other assignment for that matter, just let me know. Again, give me a call, send me an email, Facebook message me. Okay, lots. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up today's class. So next week on Tuesday, here again at 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern, 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Okay, we'll be looking at the Canadian Shame. Okay, where we'll finish up looking at Canada during the Second World War II period. We'll be looking at the Canadian Shame, how what we did that was not so pleasing during this time period. Okay, we'll go through that lesson. We'll wrap things up, how World War II ended, who won, and what happened, and what led to the conclusion of World War II. Then we'll talk about assignment number 5 and those questions. Okay, so that's that for next week, and then we'll continue moving on, looking at Canadian history for next few more lessons. Okay, before I go, I just want to say, if you have me on Facebook as a friend, go on to Facebook right now. And I mean right now. Go on Facebook right now. Click on my profile, Jeho Wasa. Go to my timeline. There's a little post that I shared earlier this morning. If you, and I mean you, if you want to win a Wasa hoodie, some Wasa swag, this is your chance and this is your opportunity. All you have to do is click on that post that I share, and you'll have a chance to be entered to win a free Wasa hoodie. Okay? So anyone can simply win. All you have to do is just like that post on Facebook. Okay? Where's that post? Again, go to my Facebook page on my timeline. I shared it. So click on that share post that I shared. Like that post, and boom, you're automatically entered to win a free Wasa hoodie. Today could be your lucky day. I think that's open until 4 p.m. Central Time. So you have now until then to like that post to be entered. And we'll decide a winner either today or tomorrow. And the winner could be you, and you could be the new owner of our new Wasa hoodie to keep you nice and warm until spring comes. Okay? Any last questions, comments before we wrap things up? Again, thanks so much. And I'll see everyone next week on Tuesday. Thank you.